Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC and with me is.
Wolf.
And today we are tackling, I think, our first Japanese anime movie, I suppose. We haven't done
Yes.
movies up until this point.
Uh, I mean, we've
And
done movies. We've not done like other than Godzilla. I suppose we've not done a lot of like
yeah,
Japanese
but
movies,
Godzilla is
especially
not
anime.
necessarily an anime. It's a live action thing.
Well, there was the show on Netflix
We
that
don't
anime.
talk about those. We don't talk about them.
Fair enough.
Okay. Okay, but jokes aside, I think this is the first one, and if you haven't seen the title, it's A Whisker Away, also known as Wanting
Uh,
to Cry, I Pretend to Be a Cat in the original Japanese. My God, there's this thing about Japanese titles that are so long, and it's like, how do you say it at a cash register? Like if let's say because I think this was released in theaters in Japan. So would you go in and be like, "Hi, I would like a ticket for Wanting to Cry, I Pretend to Be a Cat, please."
I th-
Not to say that I hate long titles. On the contrary, I love them. But with that said, a whisker away. Let's start with you. You are the one who recommended me this. What are your general non-spoilery thoughts?
okay, so general non-spoiler thoughts. I would say I enjoyed this. It's again right, like it's from a basic perspective, right? And what you'll kind of see going into it is a story of a young love story, like a young teenage love story, right? Like that's what it is, basic premise.
Yeah.
There is more to it than that, and we'll get into it when we get into more spoiler section stuff. But with that in mind, I think it's enjoyable. It's just fun. It's nice. um And I would recommend this. I would recommend going in, checking this out, and watching it. I think it's absolutely worth the time you spend with it, which is about an hour and 16 minutes. Like it's not a very long movie at all. Like the
Yeah.
running time, the runtime is 104 minutes. Like that's
Like
very
I've
short.
seen shorter, I've seen longer.
Yeah, true. One thing I'll definitely praise is the music is very wonderful in it. The art style. Wow, this just
Yeah.
looks beautiful, right? Like
Hmm.
the animation, the lighting, the background art, like it is a beautiful, beautiful movie. Like absolutely beautiful movie to watch. Um
Agreed.
I suppose a lot of people are going to see this, right? And they're going to make comparisons to Ghibli. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Okay, but before we get to that, I just want to say that I overall really enjoyed this. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this, and I also, well, it did also kind of threw me a few curveballs like that. I was kind of thinking, oh, this is going to be this type of movie, but I'm like, oh, it's actually not like that. It did kind of surprise me in a few places. That said, I think that when we said that the running time is not too long, I think if you could have cut 15 minutes and not really lose anything. But
Really? I would say they needed to add a bit more.
that's not that big of a problem. I overall enjoy it. Really.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to that with spoilers, but like you said, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
It looks amazing. And again, the story. Well, I think we could cut a few things. I still enjoyed it. I still think it had a satisfying conclusion too. I enjoyed my time. Like I was surprised that I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, agreed. Like, it was very enjoyable, a
And
very good
to answer
watch.
your question, I definitely got some Ghibli vibes for it, specifically Spirited Away.
You're going in and out a bit, just to let you know, but it's like it's still picking you up. It's just like there's a pause and then you start. I don't know why it's doing that, but it's being a little weird, I guess. Discord maybe.
So while you agree on the Ghibli stuff, let me be right back.
Okay.
Continue talking about Ghibli for a second.
Sure. I'm alone now. Yeah. I think I think a lot of people are going to look at this and think, hey, this is definitely trying to ape Ghibli style a little bit or like their feel a little bit. And I can see where people would come into that at. I think, oh, what is the Ghibli cat film? It is, what is the name of it?
Okay.
The
Am I
Cat
coming in
Returns.
fine?
Yeah, you seem to be
Yeah.
doing pretty good right now. We'll see
Okay
as we
then.
go on. So, you've heard of The Cat Returns, right? The Ghibli film?
Yes, I heard of it, but I haven't seen it for myself.
Darn, I've not seen it either. So, I don't have a lot
Ah,
of comparisons. I've seen other people compare this to that. I don't
well,
know if you
I
can or
I
not.
got I got a lot of Spirited Away out of this personally.
Yeah, that's definitely I definitely got some vibes from this from in that regard as well.
Hmm. So yeah, I got a lot of Spirited Away out of this. We'll probably get into specific when we get into spoilers because we do want to note this is a movie that's very hard to talk about without mentioning spoilers.
Uh-huh.
So if you want our general recommendation, go see it. It's on Netflix, so it's easy to access, and we think you're going to have a good time with it.
Yeah, yeah, I think you know, i- yeah, go into this expecting very simple stuff, then you'll still walk away from it enjoying it and having a lot of fun with it. But there
Mhm.
is some deeper themes to it, I think, that are very
Yeah.
obvious, that are very quickly realized, that you'll
Mhm.
catch on to very quickly, I feel.
Yeah, but with that said, we're going into slight spoiler territory because, uh, and by slight we mean we're not talking about any big plot element, but we're talking about something that's not necessarily a giveaway when you just go into this movie on its own without knowing anything,
It's
and
it's
and it's
essentially
kind,
go ahead.
it's basically the theme of the movie.
Yeah, it's it's
The
it's the themes of the movie. It's some themes of the movie that we think, if you go into the movie knowing them, it might change your perspective somewhat. So if you want to hear them, stick around. If you would like to go into the movie not knowing them and then come back, do that.
So, with that said, like if you don't want to know anything about the movie, then stop watching right now. Go watch it, come back. But if
Mhm.
you don't mind hearing about the themes of it, and if you just don't care to hear about the actual story stuff and you want to hear about the themes, then you can still listen in. With that said, this movie really deals with depression, like big
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Like it's very much it's pretty clear the route they're going fairly early on, right?
Like I kind of figured it out from the very first scene.
I didn't quite catch it there, but a little bit later, yeah, I caught it. Like it's hard to miss, especially once you like the main character Mio or Muge, whichever you prefer to call her, right? They do a thing with her where she sees other people in the background as essentially scarecrows,
Yeah.
which is like that's the moment where like where it like really like it was beforehand. It's like are they doing that? Then they do that, and it's like, oh yeah, she absolutely is. She absolutely is dealing with and suffering from depression and thinking that, no one else cares for her, that no one else loves her, that, and that she's just not needed, right? Like, it's very clear when they show everyone looking like scarecrows except the people who are closest to her and that she thinks does care about her and that she does care about. That being
Yeah, that's
her friend
that.
and the love interest, Hinode.
Mhm. And with with that said, I figured it out pretty early because maybe because I've seen plenty of stuff where this was the theme,
Uh,
and answer kind of surprisingly, like I got more high school than this, but apparently she's a middle school girl, and middle school wasn't the easiest time for me. So I connected with her
yeah,
in a lot of
it's
ways.
junior high, so these kids are like 13, 14, maybe 15 at most.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
And
it's yeah,
it hits. It
yeah.
hits. Like I think she was, but the thing I like about her is that yeah, she's depressed, but at the same time, you don't really. She's not necessarily crying all the time, or for lack of a better term, bitches about stuff all the
I
time.
mean,
You,
it's that type of depression, right, where it's like, hey, I'm gonna put on a smile. I'm gonna pretend to like care about
yeah.
everyone and be there for everyone, but again, it's a very real depiction of depression where
Mhm.
you're hurting, but you don't want anyone else to know it because you think no one else is gonna care about it, and so she
Yeah,
hides all that.
and the thing is that, watching her, like, not only did I relate to it, from personal experience and a lot of stuff, but something about her reminded me of the Robin Williams situation. You know that when he died by suicide,
Mm,
and people were all like, how could a person that brought so much laughter, so much joy into other people's lives, like, was basically calling for help this entire time. So this is the part that stuck to me. She really reminded me of that.
mm. I mean, again, like that's depression, right? Like you don't know it, you don't realize it, right? And that's the whole point of it. It's a very personal thing that, again, it makes you think that no one else cares, that no one else is going to care, that no one else is going to want to help, and they would, but you just don't see that, so you hide it from everyone because that's what it makes you want to do. That's what it makes you feel like. And again, like, and they depicted it very real here. Like, also going to say they depicted a young teenage girl very well here as well. I feel like these
Mhm.
feel like young kids dealing
Yeah,
with their day to day and just the shit that life can sometimes throw at you. Like, this feels like a kid. Like, she's
yeah,
just
and
written
and
so
also
well.
like, yeah, and it's also that the problems she's going through are not necessarily exaggerated. Like, there's this entire idea that that's not really a spoiler. It's established really early, and that her father has a her parents are divorced,
Yeah, her
and she's
mom
living.
is leaving, and her father is getting remarried.
Yes.
And
So
again, as a kid, she's like, you know, she doesn't know how to really deal with that. She thinks it's unfair to her that no one is thinking about her or how she feels. They're only thinking about themselves. She thinks everyone else is selfish. And you hear the mom say like, "Well, it's something you'll just have to get and understand when you're older." But
yeah,
she still
but
doesn't get it. She
there's
doesn't want to get it. She doesn't want to understand. Again, she's a kid. She has a kid's
but
reaction to
again,
this.
she has that, and she has also a scene where she literally blows out about this entire thing, which I felt was really realistic.
Hmm.
But it's also the fact that she's not necessarily resenting her father's new fiance. She's trying to get along with her. She's trying to see her as family. She just doesn't know how.
Hmm.
And so yeah, like in terms of how it handled it, I think it did it really well. And I would even argue that it's one of the best representations of depression I've seen in anything.
I I was debating on that. Like, I don't think I've seen personally. I don't think, and I suppose maybe this is terrible of me, but I don't go out of my way to watch stuff that focuses heavily on depression. I'll admit.
You know, it depends on how it does it, and it
Well, it's not
depends
even that.
on
It's just even if it does it well, right? I don't go out of my way to watch stuff like that a lot of the times because
yeah, and that's
it's going to
fair.
make you sad. It's going to make you feel like kind of shit if you're an empathetic person, and it's like sometimes you just don't want to feel that way.
Yeah, I get you. Like,
So,
again, as someone who connected with that personal type of depression, from my own personal experience, I get what you mean. I don't always want to watch it, so I'm not looking for those things. But
mhm,
I've experienced some media that deals with it, out of curiosity. Like, we've obviously talked about certain reasons why in this show. There are shows
mhm,
like Sex Education that deal with it. There are other movies that might not deal with it to that extent, but they still touch upon it, like Inside Out or and but this was one of the best ones. I won't necessarily say the best because that would imply it does something the others doesn't. But in terms of from my point of view, I connected with this a lot more than some of the other examples I gave. Not to knock Inside Out or Sex Education or certain reasons why I can go die in hell after some of the later seasons. But
Eh,
I really connected with this one.
I think for me, right, I feel like some of it is somewhat right. Like this is how to explain this. You know, you see a lot of depression stuff, and it gets again like right. You see it get really bad, right, and
Mhm.
before it gets better. I feel like you're not given enough time to really see the low in this film. It tries to keep it a bit more lighthearted, and
And you know what? You know what? I think I actually like it
hmm,
because it shows that, at the end of the day, depression isn't something you like. It's obviously something that sticks with you. It's a bitch to fight. But a lot of shows or movies that represent it try to present it as this is the only thing this character is going through. this is
mm,
the this is the only thing that defines a certain person. And I think this does well in showing that for one type of depression is that you are actually trying to be happy most of the time and put on a show for your friends so that they won't suspect something is wrong, or that when something good is happening to you, you are ecstatic, you are all over the place. Some would even say you're insane. So for one, I like that that you can show depression is also another thing. It's not just the one thing that people try and shove into your head. But I think the other thing I like is that there's basically no bullshit with this. Like, it's just this girl has depression, and this is her story. And
mhm.
what you take away from this, you take away from this. And that's it. It doesn't really try to shove you a message that you need to listen to others or talk to others, or it doesn't necessarily tell you, you have to you have to talk to anyone who has it, or you are responsible to help people fix it. It's just, this is this girl's life and how she deals with it. So I like the no bullshit approach.
That's fair. I Yeah, that's actually completely fair. I hadn't really considered it like that. But yeah, there is a lot of stuff that when it shows depression, it does focus on more of the, the lack of energy, the very much uh, disinterested, disassociated feeling, right? And just kind of, I guess moping, but I think that's kind of a rude word to use. I'm not entirely sure. I'll be
Uh,
honest. But
ba-
they do
Basically,
try and show it in that kind of light, right? A lot of depression stuff does. This shows you that that's not really all there is to depression. Yes, that is a part of it, that is a facet of it, but there's also this entire other facet of, a lot of depression, people who suffer from it and deal with it, they do so silently, and they do so wearing masks, right?
yeah.
And again, like there is a lot of subtle stuff here that the more you think about it in the light of depression, you'll start to see, holy shit, she buys masks. She buys a mask and wears a mask and puts on a mask. She wears multiple masks, like, to hide stuff from people. She wears a mask that, changes her into a cat.
There is actually there's actually a very good metaphor for this at the end of the movie, but
Mhm.
we'll get to it when we start talking more about the
And
plot.
yeah, like even, the mask salesman is a thing back to depression. Like it's just a lot of really subtle stuff when you start to
I
really
just
look
kind of
at it.
realized that this movie is basically take The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, remove the
Oh no.
moon, and it's basically and it's kind of the same thing, but oh well.
I guess, yeah, yeah.
Not really,
Not
people.
really.
It's good.
Okay. God, we're gonna have to deep dive on Majora's Mask and how it relates to depression. The
Um,
moon is the oppressive feeling of depression.
actually, this year Zelda would turn 30 or
Oh God.
35.
Oh God.
So,
Making me feel
um,
old.
Zelda podcast coming soon, but that's another stuff.
So let's talk about how the giant moon with the scary face is the oppressive feeling of
Uh,
depression weighing you
no,
down and
no, Wolf,
constantly getting closer and closer.
Wolf, you're ahead. You're very much ahead. This is not the Zelda podcast yet. This is we're talking about the Whisker Away, but
Mm-hmm.
my guess we're gonna cover the what we thought of the teams and how they were handled.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay,
I think
so
right.
if
Like, I mean, the only other theme I would mention is the theme of looking at another main character, Hinode, right? Like his theme of kind of being true to yourself and telling people how you feel and what you think and not just hiding that away, right?
she's also kind of a thing with depression,
Yeah.
honestly, that
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
trying that you know, but this is more of what causes it than someone dealing with it, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I guess.
No,
Yeah.
but this was good too.
Yeah. I guess let's jump straight into actual plot spoilers. So,
Yeah,
if you
so if
listen to
you're
us talk
still
about the themes,
watching,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, if you are still here and enjoyed listening to us talking about the teams and all that other stuff, then now we're starting to talk about the plot itself. If you haven't seen the movie and you want to see it after we talked about this is your chance to close the podcast, go watch the movie again on Netflix, easy to find, and then come back. So spoilers starting now. If you're still here, that means you have seen the movie or you don't care about spoilers. With that said, plot now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the basic thing is that Miyu, the main character, has this mask that turns her into a cat.
Yes, name Taro.
And yeah, and as the cat Taro, she's going to visit her crush at school, who I what's his name again? Harold
Hinode. Yeah, Kento
Hinore.
Hinode.
Kento
Kento Hinode.
Hinore.
Yeah, Hinode.
Hinore.
The
Okay.
cat, by the way, you can see in the thumbnail on the background screen
Yeah.
for this
This
video.
is the cat this is the cat she's
Very
trying to with.
adorable looking.
Yeah, which, by the way, I just want to say I love the Japanese poster for this, and that poster that we're probably using right now is not doing this movie any justice. But
Yeah,
whatever.
it works for a background on a thumbnail, but there are much better posters for it. I will agree and admit the Japanese one especially, but it doesn't give the title on it, or if it does give the title on it, but it's in Japanese, and I want to give people at least an idea of what should I search for.
The Outcast, Nakitai Watashi wa Naku wo Koboro. That is the general. And I tried to read the Japanese title. I am sorry if I did it wrong, but
That's on you. They can
yeah,
come
that's
for
on me.
you, not me.
Yeah, throw the Majora's Mask moon at me, I suppose. But with that said, so she has this mask that turns her into a cat, and she's using that cat form to get close to her crush in school and kind of learn more about them and stuff. And I'll say that the thing that kind of caught me off guard is that when you found out that she's the cat at first, and it's happening relatively early on. This is like first half hour, I'd say.
Not
You find
even.
out
Like,
that,
it's almost first 15 minutes, really.
yeah, point is it's happening really, really at the start.
Yeah,
And
like
that
it's
happens,
very early on. Yeah.
yeah, and it's happening, and I'm like, oh, okay. And the first thing I thought of is, now I know why Wolf wanted me to see this. And two was, huh, that's weird. That's something that I kind of want for them to explain or develop. And you know what? They do.
Mm-hmm.
They actually show that Miyu kind of had a deal. It's not shown. It's implied that she had this deal with this like cat, like this huge cat thing that that kind of takes away cat souls and turns them into humans and turns humans into cats.
Well, what
And
it is,
he,
right? He is a no mask seller. These are no masks. And they allow you to, it's basically, a cat's face, right? And what it
yeah,
is it allows you to turn into a cat. But we later learn out, right, and find out that he does this for, yeah, you can turn into a cat. But, if you choose to stay a cat, right, then he takes your human face and you lose the ability to turn back into a human, and this becomes important later. We'll get to it. Continue on.
yeah. And so now basically Miyu is trying, is trying her best at school to get close to the kid she likes, but she only manages to do so as the cat. But as
we
the
we
cat, she learns more about him and his family and how they're basically not that different,
mhm.
like she thought.
Yeah, like we should point out, right, that you know you have this setup where like she she meets, like, you learn later on in the movie that Hinode and Mio or Taro really met each other
Yeah,
at the festival, right? Like she picks up the mask originally at the festival, turns into this, cat, and
cat.
that's where Hinode finds her, right? And he, confides in the cat because it's a cat. You're going to talk to the cat. You're going
Yeah.
to tell it things, again, do things that most cat owners normally do. Normal stuff for cat owners. They're not crazy at all talking to their cats. No. Cat owners everywhere.
Yeah,
You
like
talking shit?
not a cat, but you know much how I used to talk to my dog when he was around.
All pet
Like,
owners do this. Every pet owner everywhere talks
you
to their pet.
know,
That's why they're immediately
um,
turning to look at me. You want to talk shit, yo? That's right. I'm talking shit. You're all crazy and talk to your pet animals even though they can't talk back
I
to you.
have I have 5 words for you, Wolf. I have 5 words for you. How to train your dragon. That's it. Done.
All
In,
pets
in
suck. I
no.
said it. There. They don't. I'm joking. But yeah, like,
Why did I agree to do this?
but
But
yeah,
that
right, yeah, like, that the festival is where they first meet, and then it's at that point that's where she kind of falls in love with Hinode, and
yeah.
she uses that to then say, all
By
right,
the
I want
way,
to. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, but I just want to say that before we see this, the first thing we see of these two interacting is her seeing him at the school
Hmm.
when they go to school, and she like runs up to him and then jumps into him with her butt,
Yeah, butt bumps.
and yeah, and then she says like, "This is this
Hinode's
is how."
sunrise attack
Yeah, and
is
it's like,
what she calls it.
yeah, and it's like, what the? Like, again, at first, starting with this carnival scene where we don't see that they met yet, and then just jumping in, I'm like, what the
again th-
hell am I watching?
Again though, right,
But
like it's
yeah,
it's it
but
it
that's
it's kid, it's young teenage, like that's why I say it's written so well, because
yeah,
it seems so stupid and terrible, but this is young teenage love. It's stupid, it's terrible, but
yeah,
that's why I say it's
but
so written well.
also,
That's why I
yeah,
enjoy
but
it.
also the thing is that you are watching this and you're thinking, oh, she's like the very optimistic type of character
Yeah,
that you usually see in
energetic,
anime.
out
Yeah,
there a little bit.
and then this depression thing hits, and you're like, and it all kind of comes back that she's doing all the stuff in order to show that she's okay. She's trying to fight that thing, and suddenly it all makes sense. So, and she's doing a lot of crazy shit in this movie. Like when she hears people, spread rumors about Hinode, and she's like, "What did you say?" And she's literally jumping from the second floor of the school, and
Yeah, because she thinks
le-
she's a cat. Because she's
yeah, and
becoming more cat like.
She's even commented on this. This is much easier as a cat,
Hmm.
and 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 it's like, I you are kind of saying this and you're thinking, wow, she's crazy to do all this for a guy. But at the same time, you also realize that it's not really about the guy, but more that she feels like she's helping the guy.
Well, again,
And
right?
when
Like
he
she
actually,
realizes he too is a little bit depressed. He too is, you know, suffering from a bit of depression, and kind of trying to figure out his place in the world and what he wants to do, and being told,
Mhm,
like, the things that he wants to do, he kind of can't do, right? Because it's not exactly affordable for his family because they are, going through some hard times. And,
mhm.
he wants to do those things, but he also wants to be there for his family, right? Like his mom even tells him, like, hey, you need to focus on your studies and stuff like that because you got to provide for the family when you get older. It's like, damn. Like they don't hold, like, again, like the movie doesn't entirely hold back. It's very quick and it's done. It doesn't inherently focus on a lot of these things. And that's one of the things I kind of like about it. Like you said before, right? Like it's very much like, here it is. All right, you know this now. Now go forward with that and let's move on. I kind of like that,
Yeah,
right? But again, right? Like she's very much putting on these faces of, I'm happy, I'm overly energetic, I don't care what other people think, but she does. She does care a lot, and it does hurt, right? But again, she doesn't let anyone know that. And she thinks, and she attaches to Hinode because she thinks, oh, he's like me. He's in a similar position to me. So
yeah.
it's that this is the one thing, right, that I kind of don't like about it is her over attachment to Hinode. It is her, yeah, the over attachment to Hinode. Like this is the only thing where I would say it's kind of meh on in terms of its depression focus, right?
Yeah, but it's one of those things though that that also like when she gives him the letter, when there's a
Yeah,
scene
like
where she gives
there's
him a letter
she
that
finally
that
decides
she
to, again, right? One of the things we find out is that, she's terrible at conveying her feelings to Hinode, right? She can do it as a
Mhm,
cat, but she can't do it as a human. She can do it as a cat since he
yeah,
can't understand anything she's saying, but she just can't do it as a human. She just doesn't know how to. She's not good at
yeah,
doing it. And she finally
mhm,
chooses to do so. She finally chooses, like, hey, I want to be open with him. I want to be honest with him. I want to tell him how I feel. But she does it writing a note, and the note gets read out loud. And in that scene, Hinode, he's not good at expressing his feelings. He's not great at, being open. And he's very much embarrassed by the letter, but she wants to know how he feels. And he tells her, you didn't even think of my feelings. You didn't think how I would feel if this gets read out. You didn't think how embarrassed I would be. And then he outright just says he hates her.
yeah. This is a part that I didn't really like because she didn't plan on it to be read out. This is just a school bully that did it.
Personally, I think it's well done, right? I think it's, it feels like, this is a young teenager's reaction to how they would feel, to how embarrassed they would be. They would get angry, they would
Yeah.
get upset, and they would just say
But
something without
yeah, but
realizing
at the
it.
same time, I wouldn't get upset at her though, because she was just trying to tell him, listen, I like you and I think we have some things in common. She didn't plan on this to be read out. I would be mad that the guy,
I
just,
think that's also a bit of depression, though, the stuff that he's suffering
yeah.
from, in
I
that it's
guess, I
misdirected
guess
anger, right?
Yeah,
Like,
this is why I'm not too mad at
oh,
about
sure,
this scene
sure.
because it's also, yeah, he has his own baggage too that he doesn't know about her baggage, so he just and he sees her mask, not the cat mask, the mask
Yes.
that she's
And
putting
but
on
he does,
at
as
school.
he learns about, like, who she truly is and what she's truly been dealing with and has dealt with, right? You do see him turn around. You do see him realize,
Yeah,
shit,
exactly.
I
Which
messed
is
up.
what, which
I made a
again, which
mistake.
is why, I am more forgiving of that scene because
Hmm.
if it didn't have that angle, I would have just said he's a douche. She deserves better. But
Mm.
no, they make it work.
Yeah. I will say, right, again, I'm not entirely sure if I agree with someone who has dealt with depression, right, would have to tell me on this, but is there a thing where you become overly reliant on one particular person and how they feel to make yourself feel better? Because again, there is, Mio does suffer
Um,
from, like, she is obsessive, a little bit obsessive with Hinode, and there is this. over reliance on him and how
I
and
I
opening up
would
to him.
say I would say that it's very much possible, not necessarily with one person in particular, but I've seen friends, I've seen like friends, and sometimes for myself, that when you have a person that in a world that kind of makes you not like what's going on around it, especially
Yeah,
like
yeah.
with the kind of stuff like the pandemic and everything. Um, you know so when you have this one person who's like your one ray of light, you can talk to this person about anything. You know that this person is there for you when you need them. When you can rely on a person, when your mind constantly tells you that everyone hates you, and everyone doesn't care about you, then the one person could be a really big thing for you. And I'm not necessarily saying that you would start jumping from buildings to protect them or something like that, but at the same time, or that you necessarily crush on them, but at the same time, it takes you
But
start looking at the person differently.
but let me ask you that. But you would say that's not necessarily a good reliance, though. Yeah.
No, because you also need to understand that, at some point life kind of goes on.
Hmm.
One day that person can just vanish, and not necessarily because he has something against you, but because he or she has their own lives, and sometimes
Hmm. Yeah.
things just pop away in those lives.
That
That's that.
and that's kind of what I'm getting at for this film. I think it would have been good if by the end of it we would have seen Mio kind of opening up to her family a lot more in some way, or we would have had a moment where she was able to see that her stepmom does truly love her and wants to be there for her. Her father and mother do love her and want to be there for her in their own way as well, right? Like, she does have those close people. It feels like the movie doesn't really tell you that, hey, an over reliance on just one person like this isn't necessarily a good thing. Like, that's the one
Yeah,
flaw,
because
the one
it also
caveat,
shows
or
that she's
caveat.
yeah.
That's your one pun. That's your one pun you're getting from me. That's the best I've got for you, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. Your caveat.
Uh, yeah, okay, so you are not allowed to make fun of my puns anymore for the rest of when we do this podcast.
But yeah,
But
it's the one I personally would say it's the one flaw I would give this movie, where it makes her feel that she's over reliant on Hinode for her own ability to
part
feel
of the
good, right?
it is part of the idea, but also something. But it also represents this as a bad thing because she has her
I
best friend. I think it's Yumi. Is that the best friend?
Yes. I don't
Okay.
remember. I do not remember.
Uh,
Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, Yumi. I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a thing that kind of represents that Yumi is kind of mad that all that Miyu thinks about is this guy that doesn't really seem to care about her. Like he talks to her maybe once, and he doesn't seem to really acknowledge her any other time.
It's
And
Yoriko. I'm sorry. I got it wrong. It's Yoriko.
that's the
Yori.
name of the best friend.
Yeah, that's the name of the best friend. Yoriko or Yori.
Yoko. Okay. So Yori Yumi is too similar. God damn it.
Yeah.
But but the point still stands that she sees just how much she tries to get that boy's attention, and she just keeps hurting herself, and people are looking at her weird, and it's like, yeah, it is represented a bit in a bit of a negative light that Miyu does becomes over reliant on on Hinode's compliments and attention towards her. So and then when he just outright tells her, "I hate you," she runs after her to consult her, but then she's also like turning around and telling him to die. So
Well, no,
that's
she
also
yelled
like
"die" to the guy who read the note, because she.
eh,
I love how they show, like, he Mio, right? She just knocks this lectern on the dude who's mean and reads the
Yeah.
note, right, and being a jerk. She
Mhm.
knocks the lectern onto him, and he's just crushed underneath it, and you just see him in the background just help, and his just hands just kind of up there, kind of struggling a little bit, and you just see it get slower, it just gets smaller and smaller as he just leans it back down, and then Mio runs off, and then Yuriko, her best friend, runs after her and just jumps on the lectern just to crush him a little bit more. Like he's not hurt or anything; it's just on top of him, and she just
Mhm.
yells out "die," and it's just like she's just like damn. Like I loved that. I thought that was it's a heavy moment, but I like the little bit of humor that they throw in there as well, right?
Yeah, but and then also, when Miu disappears because she's a cat forever, there's a point where like Yuri actually cries about this and says, "I
Hmm.
wasn't a good enough friend. I let her down." And it's like, this is really heavy shit. That again, going back to the depression thing, there's no worse feeling, at least to me, than knowing that you disappointed a really good friend of yours
Hmm.
and made them feel like you're not really there for them. And in her eyes, because Miyu is going on and on about Hinode, she kind of failed at her job when Miyu was there for her. I really felt for her at that part. That was an ouch.
Yeah, yeah. We should also mention, right? Like this doesn't really focus on the idea of all right. So, I saw someone mention this, and I'm going to bring this up to you.
Yes.
I've seen someone talk about how when Mio, when she gives up her human face and decides to permanently stay a cat, when she does this, would you link that to suicide? Because I've seen someone say this is akin to giving up on your life, to throwing your life away. Would you link that to suicide?
You know what?
I've seen someone else do it. I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure, but I want to ask you.
Hmm, I won't necessarily say that this was the movie's intent necessarily,
Hmm.
like, but at the same time, I can see a lot of argument working in favor
Yeah,
of this
yeah,
theory.
that's fair. Because and the reason I ask, right, is because right, you, if that would be the case, I feel one, it's it's kind of undermined in the fact that she is given that second chance, she is able to get her life back, right, as well
But
as the
again,
fact that oh, go ahead.
but then again, but then again, I get what you mean. But then again, you also kind of need to understand this is this is the movie needing to have its happy ending.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't get me wrong, would I have preferred to them to just go balls out, all balls out, and just leave her a cat and give a
No,
tragic ending?
I wouldn't. I wouldn't
Mm.
like that. I honestly, I wouldn't like that. I think right. It's because they kind of intermix this depression theme with this kind of fantasy setting where you have the ability to turn into cats, right, and go to this cat world, and we'll get to that, right. It's because of that, right. It does undermine it a tad bit in that regard to some degree, but that's why I don't think it's inherently linked to depression and why I would, or inherently linked to suicide and why I wouldn't link it to that. But I would absolutely link it to depression, right?
Yeah.
But suicide,
Yeah,
I'm
I
very on the
think,
fence of. I don't
you
think
know
it's
what?
inherently trying to say that or do anything with that. I think it's very much focused on depression and how you can overcome depression.
Because I'll tell you what. Again, I'm not saying that I personally know people like this or something, but from depression can cause you to do some things, and not necessarily
Hmm.
in terms of killing yourself, God forbid, but also in terms of,
Hurting yourself, right? Yeah, yeah.
and not necessarily hurting yourself, but just running away.
Oh, yeah,
Just
even that
feel,
too. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm not aware of any people who were close to me that were like that, right?
Hmm.
I'm not. It's not necessarily people who are close to me that I can speak from their experience, but there are plenty of stories where kids and people just ran away from their lives because they weren't happy.
Hmm. Yeah.
And So I would compare it more to that because there is a
That's
way
fair.
to come back from it.
Yeah, that's actually very that's a good point. Yeah, that's very true. That's actually a really good way to link it back to something that is just running away for a while and just trying to get away from everything and just letting it all kind of who cares at that point until you come back and realize that you do care, right? Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
Mhm.
So
And
I want
again,
to talk about the cat salesman.
yeah.
Did the cat salesman is I love the fact that they use him as the mask salesman being a cat, right? I love the fact that they use him as this link to like actual a depression enemy, I suppose you could say. I don't know how to phrase this properly, and I apologize
Yeah,
if I
I know
come
what
off
you
a bit
mean,
rude,
though.
but
Mhm.
it's like he's constantly at certain points for Mio showing up and saying, "You can't do what you want to do." Who's going to he basically outright says, Hinode is never going to love you as Mio, but he'll love you as a cat. Like he's actively
Yeah.
trying to get her to give up, right? I love that, he is the like depression given physical form, I suppose you would say, right?
And
For
this is
Mio. And I love that.
I liked it too, but at the same like I like it as long as it keeps to that side of when he's in the human world and tries to convince her.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't like is that all of a sudden he becomes the physical antagonist of the movie.
Yeah. Again, I think
And the
it's the
and the
fantasy element
climax
at the end. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Go ahead.
and the climax revolves around essentially beating him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it starts to go to diminish for me. And again,
Mm-hmm.
I get why, because at the same time, it's kind of, I guess, because they kind of want to, like, kids are going to see this because it's animated, so you need to have like a figurative bad guy in
Well,
there. But
it's the first How to Train Your Dragon problem, right? Of all dragons are good. Not all dragons are bad. All dragons are good, except that one. We have to beat that one. We need a physical enemy to end it off with. It's that kind of problem.
kinda, yeah, but something like
It's
that.
a problem where we have to have some actual physical big bad guy, but in having this physical big bad guy and not
You're
the
kind of going
metaphysical big
against,
bad guy, you kind of defeat your theme a little bit, right? At
yeah.
least for this one, you can say the that them having to go against the masked salesman cat, right? Him being that kind of physical embodiment of depression and beating down on yourself constantly. It does make a little bit of sense that he's the big bad at the end, where you're beating
But
depression and you're fighting back against depression, right?
yeah,
But
but at the same time, I do want to
it
talk
falls
about this
flat.
because
Yeah.
I will say that I would have agreed with you and I would have accepted it if it wasn't for the fact that there's a point where after Miyu finds in the cat kingdom, let's call it that,
Hmm.
and like after he gets the paws, after he gets like the paws and everything, and the cat, her stepmother's cat is like giving her the face mask and tells her, "There you go, you can change." But and
We
she
skipped over
does.
some things here. People are like, "Wait a minute, what? He has cat paws? What?"
Well,
No, we'll get there.
let's consider Wolf. We're in the spoilers section. That means that
No,
the people here
I'm
most
just
likely
saying, like,
see.
people are going to be a little bit confused that Hinode has cat paws all of a sudden. I
Yeah,
just think it's funny. But go
but
ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So she does. She puts the mask on. She does the flip to turn back into a human, and then and then nothing happens.
Hmm.
She stays a cat.
Hmm.
And they bring up the idea that, when she transforms, she needs to believe that she has a reason to go back because in her mind, she still doesn't have a reason.
Hmm.
She doesn't do like she and because she's not entirely sure if Inoda loves her. She's not entirely sure
If
about
anyone
if
loves her, if
if
anyone cares.
anyone, her parents and all that stuff. So this would have been a good enough climax, I think, to like battle depression that way. But they just turned this into this: we need to keep the mask away from the salesman, and we actually need to get into a physical fight with the salesman, and he actually takes her soul, her human soul for a bit, and it's like this is the part where it becomes a bit too movie cliche and not working with the teams,
See,
at least to me.
this I didn't have a problem with because they do have, Hinode kind of talk with her and show her that, he at least cares about her. My problem was I feel like there needed to be something after this that shows like in more than, and they do this with the credits a little bit, but I feel like they could have done a bit more of showing Mio that, it
Showing
wasn't,
what happened later,
but
yeah.
just showing Mio, not just showing what happened later, but showing Mio that it isn't just Hinode that cares about her, right? Like they show the audience, but I don't feel Mio really learns anything. She has a
The
bit of an idea that, oh wow, people actually are worried about me. They're looking for me. They do care. But I don't feel she entirely gets it or that it entirely
you
clicks
know,
with her by
I
the end of the
think
movie.
yeah, I think we needed an actual scene of what we see in the credits and not just relegated to credits.
hmm Like it's nice that they do show that with the credits. They give you that kind of, okay, she is learning. She is, you know, coming to understand and accept that, it's more than just Hinode that cares about her. Everyone she saw as scarecrows, they are there for her. And I do like, right? Like I love the fact that she doesn't always see her parents as scarecrows, like her stepmom and father. She doesn't see them as scarecrows until very later on in the movie when she finally decides when she runs away from them, right? Like that's when
Yes.
she sees them as scarecrows. That's when she's done with them. When she finally blows up at her stepmom because her stepmom's like, her stepmom even confronts her like, "Hey, why are you always putting on a smile? Is something wrong?" And she's actually trying to be there. She's trying to care for her. She wants to like, is something wrong? Let me help you. And you have this scene of Mio just outright exploding at her stepmother, saying like, "What's wrong with me smiling? Why are you so selfish? I'm smiling for you. Why can't you just accept that and leave me
Yeah,
be?" Like
that
that is
blowout scene was really
so
good.
good. Like that is, that is a kid getting upset, but that's also someone who is depressed getting upset because they think this person who just doesn't want to accept that I'm happy, quote unquote, and actually is trying to care for them and be there for them, like they think they're being selfish because they just want to accept their fake happiness. Like, damn, that is good. That is some good writing, right? Some damn
Hmm.
good writing. Like,
Agreed.
but yeah, it's. I feel like it would have been nice to see something with her stepmom and herself. Just any kind of small thing. I feel like that was kind of needed. Because again, it does have that impression of she's way too dependent on Hinode. And I don't feel the movie kind of shows that that's not inherently a bad thing, but that's also not inherently a good thing either, right?
One thing I want to point out regarding a character that we didn't really talk about is Kinako,
Yeah,
who's
Kinako,
she Kinako. She's
the
like
stepmother's
Miyu's
cat. The
yeah, the
stepmother's cat, yeah.
stepmother's cat, and we see a few shots of her that she doesn't necessarily like Miyu,
Mm-hmm.
but and also and then after Miyu sacrifices being a human to being a cat permanently, we suddenly see that Kinako took over her human form
Mm-hmm.
and she's trying to live her life. And
And
I really hated this idea.
yeah, like it comes off
Be-
as, oh, we're kind of just ruining the depression thing all of a sudden.
yeah,
But
again, it was given the movie a physical villain.
yeah,
When I did, and son, and I when they say that there's going to be this like ceremony that's going to make the thing permanent, and I was like, oh god,
and
are we really going to
Mio
do
is going
like
to lose half her life force to Kineko and half her life force
yeah.
to the mask seller.
Yeah, and I was
But
like, oh,
they
oh come on.
do.
But then they do this thing that Kinako suddenly sees in Miyu's body that the stepmother, her owner, actually misses her and actually is going all out looking for her.
Mhm.
And that she does care about her. And I think this
Well,
really connected to what Miyu herself had to learn that, just because someone doesn't show you they love you all the time, it doesn't mean they hate you.
Well, it's not even that, right? Kinako did feel loved. She absolutely felt loved by Mio's stepmom, right? Like she even said, like, she even took Mio's, human face and all that, and was going to live as Mio's life because she wanted to make, her owner happy, because she recognized and understood that, I as a cat am not going to last much longer. I'm going to die soon. Humans live much longer lives than we do. If you're going to turn into a cat, then I can turn into you to always keep her happy, to always be there for her. It's like, again, they turn this, you, you almost think it's going to be a villain. You almost think, yeah, you're kind of ruining it. And then they do this later and you learn about it. And it's like, oh, damn, that's actually kind of, that's
That's like a
meaningful. That
very good
hits a little
point.
bit, right? Like she wants to return all the love and happiness that she's been given, but then she realizes immediately, like, oh shit, I was able to, because again, she thinks that she can't provide her the love and happiness that a daughter can, right? But then she, gets to standing back and seeing everything, and she sees just how much, her stepmother slash her owner, Kinako, sees just how much she actually did care about her and just how much meaningful happiness she did provide as a cat, right? And she learns about this
But,
and
you
says,
know,
I've made a mistake. I've screwed up.
this is the point I want to ask you. Have you seen this movie in English or Japanese?
I watched it in Japanese. I would like to go back and watch it in English, but I did not do
Yeah,
so
okay.
before we recorded.
So same. I've seen this in Japanese, but now I see that the English voice actress for Kinaku is Christina V. So now I have to,
Yeah. I mean, Mio
because
is
Christina
voiced
V is
by
awesome.
Jeremy Lay, who is absolutely wonderful. So, yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely
like
like,
I
well,
just
damn.
I
Christina V,
just
Jeremy Lay, yeah, yeah, gonna
yeah,
have to
actually
watch
I just see
this.
that Chamilay is the voice of Michiru in BNA.
hmm
So this is for you.
I have to go back and watch my girl. She is my girl.
Mhm.
I love her voice. I love her voice work. She does amazing work. But yeah, like again, this has an absolutely stellar cast in Japanese, and an absolutely, from just looking at some of the names that are listed for the movie, has an absolutely stellar cast in English. So you're not going to go wrong watching this either way. Watch it as both
Yeah.
if you want. But I will say, right, there's definitely some things here or there we haven't mentioned, but I don't want to mention everything. I think it's nice to be a little bit surprised by some stuff, right?
Mhm. Indeed, like I was pleasantly surprised by this. Like, puns I have put it aside. Like I really enjoyed this, and I would
hmm
definitely recommend friends to see it and check it out.
hmm Again, right, I think, it's not perfect. There are a few flaws with it, but I think it does exceptionally well at telling you, hey, here is a story of, you know, again, young teenage love with a bit of, with a lot, really, a mix of, hey, here's a depression story and someone dealing with that and learning and learning and having to learn a lesson that, a lot of people who deal with depression do end up learning eventually, that there are people there who care about her, that there are people there who love her and want to be there for her and want to help her. But it's extremely hard to see that when you're dealing with depression. And again,
Indeed.
right, it's a very hopeful story of depression, right? Like it's not like a lot of stories of depression where it gets dark before you finally see the actual sunrise. This gives you the sunrise a little bit quicker and shows, hey, you can beat depression. You can get past it. You can move forward from it. You can do better. It's not going to be easy, but this does give that very hopeful feel and look forward to the future, which is nice, right? Like it's a movie about depression that I think anyone can watch and pull away from it and still walk away like, hey, I enjoyed that. That was enjoyable. That was fun, a little bit here and there, and it got me to think about things a little bit here and there, and it ended. It had its happy ending.
Very much agreed.
So, uh,
So
yeah, go
um,
watch A Whisker
yeah,
Away.
Again, really, although honestly, if you are in this part of the review, you most likely have seen it. So go watch it again. Show it to people.
There is
Show them that
one
you
last
care.
thing I would like to mention.
Yeah. Yes.
When we see some of the other cats who lost their human forms, right? One of them says specifically that she was a mother who walked out on her kid because she didn't feel like she was good enough, right? She was questioning, like, is my kid going to think I'm good enough? Do they think I'm doing anything right? My first thought when I heard her speak up was like, oh, is that supposed to be like a slight nod to that's Mio's actual mom? What did you think?
No, because we
So,
did see her actual
no,
mom.
but I mean, her mom could have been a cat living as her mom, though.
Oh, okay.
Like, the cat was her mom's, was her actual mom, but her, mom in human form could just be a cat living as her mom. That's like, it felt to me like, because again, like you hear Mio, right? Her mom left her father and walked out, and no one really knew why. She just left, right? And so, but she was still kind of there for Mio, but she did leave her father. And then her father remarried and all that. But, to me, it felt like, you have this, cat person sitting there saying, like, hey, I walked out on my child and my family because I didn't feel like I was going to be good enough, because I was worried that my child would always be questioning me and stuff like that. And to me, it felt like this isn't them outright stating it, but it feels like this is them hinting at that is Mio's mom.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's an option, but at the same time, it's just one of those things that it's just a theory, basically.
Yeah, it's absolutely a theory, right? But I feel like it's open. I feel like they leave it
a
open-ended enough.
Theory.
Oh,
sorry.
God. I feel like they leave it. You didn't.
We
but
walked
you did.
into it. Sorry.
Nah. I feel like they leave it open-ended enough that you could see it as that way, and I don't think you would be wrong, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to get my theory out there so people would know.
Yeah. So,
I was the first.
Okay. Supposedly. For all you know,
I'm going to claim it anyways.
Some guy on Facebook was suddenly like, hey,
I mean, this did come out June 18th of last year, so we're a little bit behind, but
Yeah. I'm
still going to claim first. I'm still going to claim first.
Fair enough. Anyway, I think that's all for Whisker Away.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot that we've not talked about that we definitely think, it's fun to leave as a bit of a surprise.
This is one of those movies that's really go watch it and start your own conversations about it.
I honestly think, you'll watch it and you'll pick up a few new things each time you watch it too.
Yeah. So with that said, that's all for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed. What are your thoughts about the Whisker Away? Do you have theories, notes, thoughts? You can tell us all about them in the comment section below, on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C, and our Twitter, which is Berkcast Team. I completely turned this around. Go me. But the Twitter is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C, and our Tumblr is Berkcast Team. I am an idiot now, whatever. But yeah, that's all for this episode. See you guys next time. Take care.
I was Wolf, and bye-bye.